I see Peter Schiff back there. Peter, would you like to go first?
Sure.
You're the only candidate we have this evening for the United States Senate. But there will be other people for other offices. I'm Hugh Barry. I'm the chairman. It's nice to have you here, and welcome to Easton.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming here.
How do we go over here? Utilize this podium and these nice flags.
Okay. What I've said to our CAN committee, and maybe you heard some of the comments before, we're encouraging all the candidates for all the different offices here to come up here and talk to us. You know, next month we'll be picking delegates, and in April we're going to try and give those delegates some kind of guidance in terms of how we feel about the different candidates. So maybe if you take 5 or 10 minutes and kind
10
of
minutes, and then open it up to questions. I think
exactly. We'll open up to questions, and I'm sure they'll have some good engaging ones that challenge you.
I'll take questions on anything that's on your mind. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm a Connecticut native. I was born in New Haven, and I actually live right next door in Weston. And I'm not a politician. I've never run for office. I've never sought office. I'm a businessman. And a lot of people have asked me, why you running for Senate? I mean, why would you want all the aggravation? Why would you want to take a pay cut and go to the Senate? And the reason is, I've been sitting by as a private citizen, trying to find ways to help my clients at my brokerage firm protect their wealth from the reckless policies coming out of Washington. I predicted a major economic crisis, and I still predict a lot of problems in the future. And so I'm trying to figure out how to protect myself from what these guys are doing. And rather than doing that, I think it's about time I actually got out of the bleachers and went down on a playing field and did something about those policies to try to prevent Washington from repeating those mistakes. I mean, at this point, the government is now growing like a cancer, and it is sucking the lifeblood out of the rest of the economy. I mean, if you want to know why the economy is so weak, it's because the government is so big. Now, the bigger the government gets, the more resources it has to take from the private sector to sustain itself. And we can't survive. If you look at the budget that Barack Obama just proposed for this coming fiscal year, our government is going to spend $3.8 trillion in 1 year. Now, I'm sure they're going to spend more than $4 trillion, but they're at least proposing $3.8 trillion. 10 years ago, they spent half that amount. Now, I remember in 2000, I thought the government was big back then. Now it's twice the size. How can that be? I mean, most Americans actually earn less today than they earned 10 years ago. The stock market is lower than it was 10 years ago. How can the government be twice the size? How can we possibly afford twice as much government as we had 10 years ago? And just recently I looked at these statistics. I was really shocked when I saw it. I didn't even know it was this bad. To see how much we're paying our government employees. The average federal worker, not counting military, the civilian worker, they earn almost 60% more than the average worker in the private sector. And that's cash. If you count all the lavish pay benefits they have, the pensions and the health care, they actually earn twice as much as what private citizens make. Now, this doesn't make any sense. They're public servants. They work for us. Yet they're making twice as much as we are. Right? Remember, we live in a twilight zone? I mean, how is that possible? There was a time when civil servants actually made less than people in the private sector. What we've been doing over the last decade or longer is enriching the government at the expense of the private sector. So the first thing that we need to do is dramatically shrink the size of the federal government. We can't think about ways to slow the growth. It's already too big. We can't let it grow. The country can't survive it. So we have to start at the top. We have to cut back on the lavish pay packages of federal employees, our employees, because we're broke. We can't afford to pay them that much money. We need to shrink the head count. We need to abolish entire government departments. There are many departments we don't need. Most of them are not authorized by the Constitution anyway. I mean, one example could be the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy, we didn't even have it until 1979. Right? So it came about through Jimmy Carter. So if you like Jimmy Carter, then maybe you like the Department of Energy. But the reason that we established the Department of Energy was because we were going to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. That was the goal. That's why we had it. Well, back when we established it, we imported less than 50% of our oil. Now we import 70% of our oil. So it's been a complete failure.
Why is it there? It's spending $30 billion of our tax dollars every year. Let's get rid of it. And there are a lot of other departments we can abolish. We also have to cut the so-called entitlements. First of all, no one is entitled to somebody else's money. We have to understand that. And we have to understand that Ponzi schemes don't work. Right? Bernie Madoff is in jail for a reason. He's in jail because the Ponzi schemes don't work. Well, they don't work when the government runs them either. We have a ticking time bomb in Social Security. In fact, as a matter of fact, Social Security right now is actually paying out more in benefits than it collects in taxes. So it's already insolvent on a cash flow basis. It's obviously insolvent when you look at the future contingency liabilities, but it's broke right now because it can't even make its payments without running up the debt. So we have an enormous time bomb that's set to explode. We need to defuse it and defuse it fast. And we can't simply avoid making these hard choices because the politicians don't want to deal with them because they're afraid that if they do, they might not get reelected. We have real problems and we can't worry about who gets reelected. We need to actually solve them. Because the truth of the matter is, the real economic crisis is not the one that just passed in 2008. It's the one that's coming. Right? We have repeated all of the mistakes that created the credit crisis in 2008 that produced the greatest recession since the Great Depression. And I have a very good track record in this respect because nobody in the country was sounding the alarm louder than me about what was going to happen in 2008. I was on national television starting in 2005 all through mid-2008. I was a regular on CNBC, I was on CNN, I was on Fox, I was on Bloomberg, and all I was doing was warning about a coming crisis. I described in detail how the housing bubble was going to implode, how our financial sector was going to crash, how Freddie and Fannie would go bankrupt, how Wall Street firms would fail, and how the government was going to try to bail them out, and how that was going to be a mistake. And nobody believed me. Everybody made fun of me. Everybody laughed at me. I would be on panels, and there'd be 4 or 5 guys. Everybody would disagree with me. Sometimes when I would be there to debate somebody, the host, who was a moderator, would interject